All right, we're on to part two, okay? Now, we go through a divorce. I'll make that a separate video, what happened during divorce, all the negotiations, what I had to do, what I gave up, what the attorneys cost me, and all of that. We'll talk about all that another time, okay? What I want to talk about is my behavior after divorce and what I went through. See, most men don't want divorce. That's pretty obvious since 70% of women initiate divorce. I mean, 70% of divorces are initiated by women, not men. So men are not wanting these divorces. I think that a lot of men, when they get married, are happy with what they married and they stay there. Some are not. Some of you women will be posting on this video, he was an ass, he cheated on me, blah, blah, blah. Yes, there's always these people. Okay? And they seem to come through divorce without a flaw on them, without a scratch. And they're out there dating, they're getting married 3 or 4 times after you. Okay? All sorts of stuff's going on. They seem fine. It's the victims in the divorce who are not. And that was me. For the first year after divorce, I sat and watched TV and ate ice cream. Go to work, do my paperwork, come home, watch Netflix, eat ice cream. Sometimes it was Disney, sometimes it was HBO Max. I watched an awful lot of TV. Ate an awful lot of ice cream. I didn't put on weight. That came later. I was just massively depressed and could barely function. During this time, I was contacted by someone I knew in high school. And I guess I have victim written on my forehead because she victimized me pretty bad. She lied to me pretty heavily. The lies were just barely lies. There was always enough truth there that it was believable. And any verification I would go to check on, there was enough truth that I could find it. And it wasn't until 6-8 months into that I found out just how massively she'd been lying to me. And I promised the person who told me I would not bring that up, who told me, but someone basically told me how to figure out she was lying, and that she was. And then once I did that check, it was, oh my God, she's been lying about everything badly. And I almost got stuck with her. So I'm very happy that did not happen. But I was massively depressed. Met a really bad woman. Really bad. Worse than my ex-wife, if you can believe it or not. Behavior horrible, all sorts of stuff. Lying, cheating. I don't know about stealing, but your classics were there. So I swore I wouldn't date women after that for quite a while. And then, I don't know, I didn't want to be lonely. So I started friend requesting a few people here and there on Facebook. And one of them turned into a couple of dates. Good woman. The only flaw was she was much older than me. And that's not really a flaw. But being older, she didn't want to deal with my younger kids. So that's where the flaw came in. Had she not done that, we probably would still be dating, to be honest. Her and I just clicked too well. But it was her choice. And I've respected it, and I've kept my distance since. We're still friends. We still talk occasionally. I still see her every once in a while. She's one of the few people I've ever had a few dates with that I'm still friends with. Okay? And that's been weird. And then I said I wasn't going to date anymore, and then along comes another one. I've got dating apps. I've got things everywhere on dating apps. And I've met a few on Bumble. And the ones I met on Bumble, quite a few of them I called, it's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm U-Haul women. I call them U-Haul women. And some of my friends are like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I don't know what their situation was, but they were going to load up a U-Haul and move their asses in with me within a date or two. And they weren't going anywhere. Okay, I still get friend requests from a couple of them from way back then on Facebook, which I ignore because I knew they were U-Haul women. And a lot of them had just gone through a divorce and they had nowhere to go, and they were just going to hook up with a guy so they had shelter and were safe. I get that, but that's not healthy. You don't know what you're going to hook up with, and that is also a problem I had. So Bumble scared me for a while. Match.com, too many liars, didn't really go there. I met one woman on eHarmony, but she was weird. Okay? And this is the second year after divorce, and I'm still watching a lot of TV, still eating a lot of ice cream, and doing the minimum to keep my life going. Still exercising a little bit here and there. That didn't stop for another year and a half. Okay? But the second good woman I met was on Bumble as well. And we just didn't, after a little while of talking and going on 3 or 4 dates, we just didn't line up. And that one went away. Still talk to her occasionally. Seems to be a good woman. No complaints about her. Okay? But women are kind of out of the picture right now. My life went to hell, and I don't feel safe dating anyone while my life is hell. So to recap, year 1, ice cream, Netflix, dating a psychopath. Year 2, Netflix, ice cream, meeting a person or two. Year 1, 0 income because of COVID. We still had COVID going. Year 2, my income's rebounding a little bit, but I still make less than $20,000 that year, even though I'm paying out $70,000 for office rent. Okay? So year 2 didn't go so well for me either. Year 3, I'm starting to get off the Netflix a little bit, starting to play a few video games, starting to get out there, joined a singles group, got out, met some people here and there, nothing promising, but at least I had some friends I could get out with occasionally. All seemed to be good people, didn't really see anything bad with any of them. Most of them were younger than me, and they had a little bearing on why nothing really came out of that. My business started making more money. I started actually getting back to where I used to be. Still not quite where I was before COVID. And to run some numbers past you all, before COVID, the 5 years leading up to COVID, I made about $200,000, $250,000 a year. I had a good business, made quite a bit of money. Okay? Well, first year after divorce, I made 0. Second year after divorce, I made $19,000. That was taxable income. Third year after divorce, I made about $110,000. Still not good, but way better. Looks like things are recovering. Fourth year after divorce, this is when the crap started happening. I've been ignoring the IRS. I did not pay income taxes for 3 or 4 years because of divorce, depression, no money, no income. So 3 years after divorce, I started getting money and I started trying to take care of it. I got a revenue officer then, okay? He was an idiot. He did nothing. He didn't know how to do anything. Part of the problems with my ex-wife was that starting that daycare exceeded our financial limits. And there were 2 quarters where we didn't pay payroll taxes. And we're not talking about a little bit of payroll taxes. We're talking about $20,000, $30,000 of payroll taxes. Just couldn't pay it. Money was not there. Had we paid payroll taxes, we would have been homeless on the street. She blames me for all that, saying I couldn't manage money. But when she opened the daycare, she was starting with 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, which is a modest-sized daycare. A lot of them are that big. There's no issues with that. But the manager of the complex where she was renting talked her into doubling that size, and we're paying $9,000 a month for office rent for her. My office rent was right around $5,000. Okay? Huge daycare she's starting up. And in order to run that daycare, you need employees. But she didn't have customers. She didn't really get her customers until during COVID. Because during COVID, she was the only daycare still open in town. And anyone who actually had to work had to put their kids somewhere, so they took them to her. She abided by all the COVID restrictions. She did everything she was supposed to, but the daycare grew like mad at that time. Okay? So it was actually not a bad situation, because as my income dropped, her income went up. It was one of these things where we were keeping fairly consistent income coming into the house. Okay? But right before COVID, she has this 8,000 square foot daycare with 30 or 40 employees and no revenue. And my business couldn't finance that. Her business ended up losing $50,000 that year. And I have the documents on it 40 or 50,000. I don't know the exact numbers, but I do have the documents on it still. I've not let any of that go. I'm not letting any of it go for a while either, because I feel like I'm going to need it soon. But this put me in a bad position. 3 years after divorce, my income's starting to come back. I'm starting to take care of income taxes, starting to get them filed. Got a revenue officer that was an idiot, so I started looking for tax services. Found one. It was run by this guy in Colorado. He was part salesman, part shyster, part actual honest businessman. I don't think he was really trying to do me wrong. He just wasn't trying to do me right necessarily either. Okay? He did hold the guy off while I was working on getting tax returns done. In the meantime, I had a talk with this idiot supervisor at the IRS. She advised that I file some paperwork to move the payroll taxes away from me and over to my ex-wife. Okay? I paid my accountant money I didn't have at the time to get that done. We got it done. The idiot revenue officer never accepted. Oh, he said, I'll accept the paperwork, but he never submitted it. The tax guy I hired accepted it, but never submitted it. And I don't know why he never submitted that paperwork. I don't know why no one ever accepted it. It would have really fixed a lot of my problems at this point in time if that paperwork had been submitted 2 years prior. But never was. No one did it. Okay? Well, along comes last summer about June. Okay? We are now into year 4 after divorce. My income's doing fairly well, and I'm monitoring income, and I noticed one of my employees has had a huge drop in revenue coming into the business, whereas everyone else's revenue is at pre-COVID levels. Not higher, but we're right back at pre-COVID levels, including my income. Okay? But my income wasn't completely at pre-COVID levels because it was below that due to this guy not doing his job correctly. So we got in a lot of fighting about who needs to do their job and why. Okay? Most of my employees are hired as contract labor. That means I don't pay their taxes. They're responsible for their taxes, their health care. It also means there's a term to the contract. And after spending a lot of legal fees, I finally convinced him to finish out his contract. And part of why he was going to quit is I hired people to do the job he wasn't, and he felt very threatened over that. And he was very afraid he was just going to lose all of his income. Well, he left me last spring. My income dropped about $2,000 a month when he left. It's understandable, but he was already creating a $1,000 a month drop in income, maybe $2,000, with his behavior. I was already living with that. In addition, my office rent went up $2,000 a month, and it did that uniformly across the city. It wasn't just my office that did it. It was everywhere. Every small business person I talked to said this happened to them. And it was all in response to a bad economy. The people felt like they could get away with it. They were all doing it together. So there was a uniform front. And what are us small business people supposed to do other than choke it up? Quite a few businesses downsized at that point and reduced the size of their office. I didn't. I still had a fairly good clientele coming in. Okay? Well, last summer, I made zero income. Part of that is, and some of you are aware of it and some of you are not, I run a tutoring business, and that tutoring business meets people in person. Well, professors learn during COVID that distance learning is easy, and they don't do much and they get paid. And what's been happening in the summers is there's lots of distant learning, and no one is doing their jobs, and no one is learning anything. And since no one's here in town, I'm not earning any money. So last summer I earned like $2,000. Now, the only way I got through last year is I sold my mom's house and got an $80,000 influx in my income. I don't have that this year. Don't have that going for me at all. Okay? My first warning that things were going bad was that this guy, a revenue officer, I got a new one, put a levy on one of the bank accounts associated with the daycare. It's an old account. and it had nothing to do with me. And she hadn't been using it as far as I knew, so it did nothing. Okay? But that's when I got a call from the guy I was using saying, you know, I need more money. This guy's getting serious. You got to pay me another $12,000 for this year's tax to get through the next 3 months of this guy. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my God, $12,000? Now, keep in mind, the 3 months probably would have ended the contract with the guy and resolved the tax issue. So it wasn't necessarily a time frame thing. It just wanted it done in the 3 months. And he wanted $12,000 to finish it. This is where I made a big, major mistake. Okay? I'm going to stop the video here because I'm sure we're at 20 minutes. And YouTube doesn't like long videos like this. So I'm going to start up a part 3.